Australia's Prime Minister said yesterday that he would campaign for legalising gay marriage as the campaign for legislation to be passed gained momentum. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull said Parliament could legalise gay marriage this year if the nation's voters endorse it in a rare non-binding poll in November. He said he expected the public would support marriage equality in the so-called plebiscite, and that he would personally campaign for a yes vote. It would be only the fourth time in Australian history, and first time in 43 years, that the government puts a legally non-binding question to the electorate. I have other calls on my time as Prime Minister, but I will certainly support a yes vote, Turnbull said. The Conservative Liberal Party-led coalition was narrowly re-elected in July last year with a promise to let voters decide whether Australia should recognise same-sex marriage through a popular vote. But the Senate in November blocked the plebiscite, which would cost $170 million Australian dollars, $183 million, and promoted divisive public debate. The Liberal Party held a crisis meeting late Monday to resolve infighting and rejected a push to allow lawmakers to decide the issue now. The government yesterday endorsed the party decision to ask the Senate this week to reconsider allowing the plebiscite, which would be held on November 25. Voting would be compulsory and failure to vote would be punishable by a fine, though a voluntary vote would be held if the Senate again rejects the measure. The result would not be legally binding, and some lawmakers have already declared it would not sway their vote on gay marriage legislation. If most Australians want gay marriage, the Parliament would vote on legislation before the last two-week session of Parliament of the year ends on December 7. Strong leaders carry out their promises, weak leaders break them, Turnbull told reporters. I'm a strong leader. Gay rights advocates say enough lawmakers already back marriage equality to make same-sex marriage legal in Australia now. For the first time in Australian history, both the Prime Minister and opposition leader back the reform. Rights advocates see the plebiscite as both a delaying tactic forced by a hard right-wing minority and a strategy to undermine political support. Opponents of the plebiscite argue that the government-funded advertising campaigns for the cases for and against would give authority to bigoted and homophobic arguments. Supporters say it would give ordinary people a voice in a debate dominated by activists. If the Senate again blocks the plebiscite, the government intends to hold a voluntary postal plebiscite by November 15. Voters would mail in their opinions instead of using ballot boxes at a cost of up to $122. Responses would be voluntary and therefore less indicative of public opinion. Opponents argue that the postal plebiscite would also need Senate approval, and have threatened a court challenge if it proceeds. Turnbull said he is confident that the postal option did not need Senate endorsement. Finance Minister Matthias Cormann, the government's deputy Senate leader and an opponent of same-sex marriage, said some type of plebiscite is essential if Parliament is to decide the marriage equality question. Senator Nick Xenophon said his minor party's opposition had not changed since they opposed the plebiscite in the November vote. Lyle Shelton, managing director of the Australian Christian Lobby, said his advocacy group had collected 55,000 signatures on a petition demanding a plebiscite. Shelton handed the petition to Senator Cory Bernardi, leader of the minor Australian Conservatives Party, to present to the Senate. Bernardi has said he would vote against gay marriage regardless of what the plebiscite found. Putting it to the public. Senate to vote this week on legislation to run a compulsory plebiscite on November 25. If that doesn't pass, the government will ask the Australian Bureau of Statistics to collect statistical information from every registered voter on their views on whether same-sex couples should be allowed to marry. Ballot papers to be sent out from September 12 and the result finalized by November 15. Participation in the ABS survey, previously known as postal plebiscite, will be voluntary. If the nation votes yes, in either form of plebiscite, the government will allow Parliament to debate and vote on a private member's bill to legalise same-sex marriage, ideally before Parliament rises on December 7. If the nation votes no, the government will not help any MP bring a private bill to a vote.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe my STC News channel. Goodbye and see you again.